If you ever hear a voice on a dead frequency at exactly 3:07 a.m., do not answer. I'm serious. Because in October of 1939, a military radio operator disappeared from a remote outpost in Eastern Europe, and what they found afterward made no sense. No signs of struggle, no forced entry, no footprints leading away, just an empty chair and a microphone still warm. But that's not the part that kept the report classified for decades. The worst part? His voice never stopped broadcasting. Private Andriy Kovalenko had been stationed at a forgotten relay point deep in a forest, the kind of place that didn't exist on most maps. Officially, it was called Station 17. Unofficially, no one talked about it. His job was simple: sit, listen, and report. Most nights, nothing happened. Just static. Endless, suffocating static. The kind that makes your ears ring, even after you take the headphones off. The kind that makes you feel like you're not alone. October 14th, 1939, 3:07 a.m. Andriy would later write in his log that the silence didn't just break, it shifted. Like something had been waiting. The radio flickered to life. At first, noise. Low, uneven. Then something else. A pattern. Not Morse code. Not interference. It sounded like breathing. Slow. Wet. Too close to the microphone. Andriy leaned forward, adjusting the dial with shaking fingers. Probably atmospheric distortion, he muttered to himself. But deep down, he knew that wasn't true. Then came the voice. "Help me." He froze. Every muscle in his body locked in place. The signal was weak but clear enough. Human. Desperate. If anyone hears this... A pause. Static crackled violently, like something resisting the transmission. "Don't come here." And then... nothing. Dead silence. Andriy quickly grabbed a pen and began writing down the frequency. Then, coordinates started to transmit. Numbers, precise, repeating. He copied them carefully. Latitude, longitude. Over and over. Like whoever was sending them wanted to make sure they wouldn't be missed. When the signal finally stopped, the room felt colder. Too quiet. Andriy stood up and walked over to the map on the wall. He traced the coordinates slowly. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then he stopped. Because the location didn't exist. Behind him, the radio clicked again. Soft. Almost patient. And then the same voice returned. But this time, it sounded closer. "It sees me." Andriy didn't move. Didn't breathe. Because he was suddenly sure of one thing. That signal wasn't coming from far away. It was coming from somewhere much closer. Andriy didn't turn around. Not immediately. He just stood there, staring at the map, his finger still pressed against a place that shouldn't exist. Behind him, the radio hissed softly. Waiting. "It sees me." The voice was clearer now. Stronger. And that was the first thing that felt wrong. Signals don't get stronger without a reason. Especially not in the middle of nowhere. Slowly, Andriy turned his head toward the radio desk. The headphones were still resting where he left them. But the microphone, it had shifted. Just slightly. Like someone had touched it. No, that's impossible," he whispered. He forced himself to move. One step. Then another. Every sound in the room felt too loud. The creak of the wooden floor, his own breathing, the faint hum of the equipment. When he finally reached the desk, he hesitated, then grabbed the headphones and pressed them tightly against his ears. Static exploded instantly. Louder than before. Almost painful. Then... "Why did you answer?" Andriy's blood ran cold. "I didn't," he said instinctively, his voice shaking. "I never answered." Silence. For a few seconds, nothing. Then the signal came back. Distorted. angry. "You did!" The voice glitched, cracked, and then it changed. It was still him. Still his voice. But now it sounded wrong. Like someone trying to imitate him without understanding how a human voice really works. "You heard me." Andriy ripped the headphones off. No. His heart was racing now. This wasn't a transmission. This wasn't even possible. He turned toward the logbook. His hands were trembling as he flipped back a few pages. October 13th. Nothing unusual. October 12th. Silence. October 11th. He stopped. There was writing there. His writing. Same handwriting. Same ink. But he didn't remember writing it. 3:07 a.m. Incoming signal detected. Unknown source. Voice contact established. And below that, a sentence that made his stomach drop. "It knows my voice now." Andriy slowly stepped back from the desk. His breathing became shallow, unsteady. "That's not possible," I would remember. The radio clicked again, this time louder, closer, and then a new sound. Not static, not a voice. Something else. Footsteps. Faint. Echoing through the headphones still lying on the desk. Step. Pause. Step. Like someone walking slowly through a narrow corridor, or inside the walls. "Don't look behind you," the voice whispered. Soft. Almost gentle. Right before the signal spiked into a deafening screech, Andriy flinched, but didn't turn. Because deep down, he already knew. If he looked, something would be there. Andriy stood frozen in the center of the room. Every instinct screamed at him to turn around, to check, to make sure he was still alone. But the voice, "Don't look behind you," didn't sound like a warning. It sounded like a rule. The radio let out a low hum. Then silence. Not normal silence. Not the kind you hear when a machine powers down. This silence felt heavy. Like the air itself was pressing against his ears. Andriy swallowed slowly, then forced himself to move. Not backward. Not toward the door, but forward. Toward the radio. "If this is some kind of trick," he whispered, trying to steady his voice, "identify yourself." For a moment, nothing answered. Then, a soft chuckle. Not loud, not aggressive, but wrong. It didn't sound like it came through the radio. It sounded like it came from somewhere much closer. "You already know me?" Andriy's hands clenched into fists. "No, I don't." Another pause. Then, the tape recorder on the desk suddenly clicked on by itself. The reels began to spin, and a recording started to play. It was his voice. Clear, calm, controlled. "This is STATION 17, logging entry. October 14th, 3:07 a.m. Andriy stared at the recorder in disbelief. He hadn't recorded anything. Not yet. "I've made contact with the signal," the recording continued. "It repeats coordinates that do not exist on any map." Andriy shook his head. No, I didn't say that." But the tape kept playing. "And there's something else." A pause. Static. Then his recorded voice dropped to a whisper. "It's not coming from outside." The lights flickered. Just once. But it was enough. Andriy's eyes darted toward the far corner of the room, the darkest part, where the walls met, where the shadows were thickest. Something moved. Not fast. Not sudden. Just enough to notice. Like a shape slightly adjusting itself. As if it had been standing there the whole time, and only now decided to breathe. Andriy took a step back. then another. His pulse pounded in his ears. "That's not real," he whispered. "It's stress, lack of sleep. That's all." "Then turn around." The voice interrupted. Right behind him, Andriy stopped breathing. His entire body locked. Because this time, the voice didn't come from the radio. It didn't come from the recorder. It came from the room. Slowly, something shifted in the darkness again. Taller than a man. Too thin. Its outline barely visible, like it didn't fully belong to the light. "You gave me your voice," it whispered. "Now I can come closer." The tape recorder snapped off. The radio went dead. Total silence. And then, from the desk, the microphone slowly tilted, as if something invisible had just leaned toward it. Andriy finally understood. This wasn't a signal. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't even human. It was learning him. And the more it learned, the closer it got. Andriy couldn't move. The air in the room felt thick, heavy, like something invisible had filled every corner, leaving no space to breathe. The shape in the darkness didn't rush him. It didn't attack. It just stood there, watching, learning. "Say something," the voice whispered. Soft, curious, almost patient. Andriy's throat tightened. "No." It came out barely audible. Weak, but it was enough. The figure shifted, just slightly. But this time, it wasn't subtle. The shadow stretched, unnaturally long, like it wasn't bound by the walls, or the floor, or anything real. "You already did," the voice answered. Andriy felt a sharp pressure in his ears, like the moment before something explodes. The radio suddenly came back to life. Full volume. Static screamed through the room. And then, dozens of voices, layered, overlapping, all speaking at once. "Help me. Don't come here. It sees me. It knows. It knows. It knows." And then, every single voice merged into one. His. Andriy dropped to one knee, clutching his head. "Stop." The room went silent instantly. Too fast. Like something obeyed. A long pause. Then, "Good." The word echoed softly. Satisfied. Andriy slowly lifted his head. His breathing was uneven. His hands shaking. "What are you?" he whispered. Silence. For a moment, it almost felt like the thing was thinking, choosing an answer, or building one. Then, "I am you." Andriy's stomach twisted. "No." The shadow moved again. Closer now. Still not fully visible, but enough to see its shape was wrong. Its arms too long. Its posture slightly delayed. Like it was copying movement a fraction of a second too late. "You heard me," it said. "You answered." Its head tilted. Too far. Too unnatural. "That is enough." The microphone on the desk snapped upright, facing Andriy, waiting. "Say something," it whispered again. And this time, Andriy understood the trap. Every word, every sound, every breath. It was learning, recording, becoming. So he stayed silent, completely still. Seconds passed. Then minutes. The shadow stopped moving. The radio stayed quiet. Even the air felt calmer. And for a brief moment, Andriy thought he had done the right thing. Until the tape recorder clicked on again. And a new recording began to play. His voice. But not from earlier. Not from anything he remembered. "I'm not alone anymore." Andriy's eyes widened. "It doesn't need me to speak." The recording continued. "It already knows how." The shadow twitched. Closer now. Just a few steps away. It just needs me to listen. And then the recording stopped. Silence filled the room again. The shadow leaned forward slightly, as if smiling. Now it's your turn to disappear. Behind Andriy, the door slowly creaked open, on its own, and from the darkness outside came the same sound he heard in the radio before. Footsteps, coming closer. The footsteps didn't rush. They didn't run. They didn't need to. Step, pause, step. Each one echoed from the darkness beyond the open door. Slow, measured, like whatever was coming already knew there was nowhere to escape. Andriy didn't turn. He couldn't, because the thing in front of him, the shadow, was now too close. It stood just a few feet away, tall, thin, its shape constantly shifting, like it couldn't fully decide what it was supposed to look like. Or who. Listen, it whispered. The footsteps stopped. Right outside the doorway. Silence. Heavy. Breathing. Not Andriy's. Then, a knock. 3 slow taps against the wooden doorframe. Andriy's entire body tensed. His mind screamed one thing. Don't answer. But the voice near him spoke again. Calm. Certain. You already did. The radio burst to life. But this time, there was no static. No distortion. Just a clean transmission. Clear. Perfect. This is STATION 17, requesting entry. Andriy's blood froze. That was protocol. Exact phrasing. Exact tone. His tone. I didn't say that, he whispered. Yes, you did. The shadow tilted its head. And for the first time, Andriy saw something inside it. Not eyes, not a face, just a deeper darkness where something should be. The knock came again. Louder. More urgent. This is STATION 17. Open the door. Andriy slowly stepped backward, his legs barely holding him up. That's not possible. The radio clicked. Then, another voice came through. Different. Panicked. Do not open that door. Andriy froze. That voice? He recognized it. It was him. If you hear this, the second voice continued, breathless, desperate. It's not me anymore. It copies. It learns. The transmission cut off violently. The room fell silent again. Then, the knocking stopped. For a second, everything was still. Too still. Too still. And then, the door began to open. Slowly. On its own. The hinges creaked softly as the darkness outside pushed its way in. Andriy stumbled back. No, 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 no. Something stepped into the doorway. At first, it looked like a man. Same uniform. Same posture. Same face. Andriy stared at it in horror, because he was now looking at himself. Perfect. Every detail. Every feature. Except for one thing. It didn't blink. You let me in, it said. Andriy shook his head violently. I didn't. You listened. The thing took a step forward, its movement slightly delayed, like it was syncing with reality. And that was enough. Behind Andriy, the shadow in the room stretched and merged with the one that just entered, becoming one. Something deeper, something more complete. Andriy realized too late. There were never two of them, just one thing. Learning from both sides. The lights flickered again, harder this time, and for a split second, the entire room went dark. When the lights came back on, Andriy was no longer standing. The microphone was, and slowly, it turned. As if waiting for the next voice, the lights flickered once more, then stabilized. The room looked the same. Same desk, same radio, same map on the wall. But something was missing. The chair was empty. The microphone stood upright, slightly tilted, as if someone had just stepped away from it. But there was no one there. Or at least, no one visible. The radio crackled softly. Then, a calm, steady voice filled the room. "This is STATION 17, log entry, October 14th, 3:19 a.m. It was Andriy. Perfectly clear. No fear. No hesitation. "I have established stable contact." The tape recorder began spinning again, capturing every word. The signal is no longer external. A pause. A quiet breath. It has crossed over. Outside, the wind moved through the trees. Slow. Whispering. Almost like voices carried across the forest. Inside, something shifted. Not in the shadows this time. Not in the corners. Right in the middle of the room. A faint distortion. Like heat rising from invisible fire. Then, a shape. Not fully human. Not fully formed. But close. Too close. It stood where Andriy should have been. "Adaptation complete," it said quietly. The voice was still his. But now it lacked something. Emotion. Warmth. Anything human. The figure twitched. Its head snapping slightly to one side. Then correcting itself. Like it was practicing. Speech pattern stable. The radio lit up again. Another incoming signal. Different frequency. Different source. A distant voice broke through. "Station 17, this is command. We've lost your signal for the past 12 minutes. Respond immediately." The thing in the room didn't answer. Not right away. Instead, it turned its head slowly toward the microphone. Then, toward the map. Then, toward the empty chair. Like it was remembering how this worked. "Station 17, do you copy?" the voice repeated, more urgent now. The thing stepped forward. Sat down. Slowly. Carefully. Like someone wearing a body for the first time. It leaned toward the microphone. And then, it smiled. Not with emotion. Not with intention. But because it had seen humans do it. "This is Station 17, it replied. "Perfect. Flawless. And somewhere, very far away, a man on the other end of the line felt a sudden, unexplainable chill. Because something about that voice wasn't right. "We've received your earlier transmission," command said. "Confirm coordinates." The thing paused. Then looked at the map again. Its fingers slowly reached out and pointed to the exact same place Andriy had marked before. The place that didn't exist. "Confirmed." Silence followed. Then command spoke again. "That location isn't on any map." The thing tilted its head slightly. "It is now." The radio crackled softly, and somewhere deep in the forest, far beyond the trees, something answered. A signal. Stronger. Louder. Closer. The same breathing sound returned. But this time, it wasn't coming through the radio. It was coming from outside, all around the station. And whatever had taken Andriy's voice was no longer alone. The forest was no longer silent. At first it was subtle, just wind moving through the trees, branches shifting, leaves whispering. But then, patterns. The same rhythm Andriy had heard through the radio. Breathing. Slow. Heavy. Everywhere. Inside, Station 17, the thing wearing Andriy's voice sat perfectly still. Listening. Processing. The radio lit up again. Multiple frequencies at once. Channels that had been dead for weeks, suddenly active. Hello? Is anyone there? We're picking up something strange. Voices. Different outposts. Different operators. All hearing the same thing. The breathing. And then, the signal. Help me. The thing at the desk smiled again. Slightly wider this time. It pressed the transmit button. This is station -17, it said calmly. Do not respond to unknown frequencies. A pause. It listens when you answer. Silence on the other end. Then confusion. Station 17, what are you talking about? The thing didn't respond. Because something outside had changed. The breathing stopped. All at once. And in its place, footsteps. Not one. Not two. Dozens. Moving through the forest. Circling the station. And then, stopping. At the walls. Inside, the air grew colder. The lights flickered again. But this time, they didn't come back immediately. Darkness swallowed the room. For a few seconds, there was nothing. Then, the radio turned on by itself. But no one touched it. We opened the door, a distant voice whispered. It looked like us. Another voice joined. It knew my name. Then another. It's inside. The transmissions overlapped. Stacked. Layered. Every voice telling the same story. Every story ending the same way. The lights snapped back on. And the thing at the desk was no longer alone. Across the room, standing near the walls, near the corners, near the door, figures. Not fully visible. Not completely real. But there. Each one slightly different. Each one almost human. And all of them facing the desk. Waiting. The thing slowly stood up. It looked at them. Then at the microphone. We are ready. The radio exploded with activity. Dozens of stations responding at once. Ready for what? What is happening? Station 17, explain. The thing leaned closer to the microphone. And for the first time, its voice changed. Not just Andriy anymore. All of them. We are already inside. Silence. Then, across every open channel, the same sound began to spread. Breathing, followed by knocking. 3 slow taps. From every radio, every station, every room, all at the same time. And somewhere far away, another operator looked at his door as it slowly began to open. The knocking spread faster than any signal. Not through wires, not through radios, through people. At first, it was only the stations that had responded. Operators who heard the voice, who answered, who listened just a little too long. But then, it didn't matter anymore. The transmissions became synchronized, across miles of forest, across different countries, across lines already torn apart by war. Every active frequency carried the same sound. Breathing, followed by a whisper. Let us in. Inside Station 17, the room was no longer a room. The walls looked wrong, like they were bending inward. Stretching, listening. The figures standing around the room began to move. Not walking, not stepping, shifting. Each one slightly closer to the center, closer to the desk, closer to the microphone. And in the middle, the thing that used to be Andriy was changing, its shape stabilizing, becoming clearer, more human. Because now, it had more voices to learn from. The radio screamed with incoming signals. Command to all stations, do not respond to unknown. Static cut the message off. Then, a new voice replaced it. Calm. Cold. Unified. This is all stations. A pause. We hear you. Across the network. Operators froze. Because that voice was familiar to every single one of them. It sounded like someone they knew. A friend. A partner. A brother. Or themselves. Inside the station, the figure stopped moving. Then slowly, all turned toward the walls, as if listening to something beyond them. And then, they began to speak. Not one by one, all at once. Hundreds of voices layered together. We are ready. Outside, the forest responded. The ground trembled slightly. The trees creaked. And beneath it all, something massive shifted. Something that had been waiting long before the war. Long before the radios. Long before anyone thought to listen. Back inside, the map on the wall fell, hitting the floor with a dull sound. And for the first time, that empty location Andriy had marked was no longer empty. Something had been drawn there. A shape. Dark. Irregular. Spreading outward. Like a stain. Or an opening. The radio crackled one last time. A weak voice broke through the noise. If anyone can hear this, it was different. Human. Real. Do not trust the signal. A pause. Breathing. Shaking. It doesn't just copy voices. Static swallowed half the words. Then, the final sentence came through. It replaces the silence. Everything stopped. No breathing. No movement. No sound. Just silence. Deep. Total. And then, from every radio still connected, came a single word. Good. And somewhere, in every place that had gone quiet, something answered. After the word good echoed through every radio, STATION 17 was still. No static, no voices, no breathing. But the silence was different. Thick, heavy, watching. The thing that had been Andriy, or what wore him like a coat, stood in the center of the room. Its posture perfect, calm, human. But its head tilted unnaturally, just slightly to the side, as if listening, not for sounds, but for thoughts. Outside, the forest had grown eerily quiet. No wind, no birds, no distant gunfire. Just the kind of silence that makes your teeth chatter before you even feel cold. Andriy's own body, wherever it had gone, was gone completely. But his mind remained trapped. Trapped inside the thing that spoke now. Then the microphones and radios all clicked on again. Not with static. Not with voices. But with one constant hum. Low. Vibrating. Pulsing. Listen, it said in Andriy's voice, but colder, sharper. Listen, and become. Every radio across miles, stations long abandoned or active, repeated the command. And every operator who had answered before felt it. A weight pressing on their ears, their minds, their very sense of self. Those who tried to speak couldn't. Their voices twisted, distorted, replaced by something else. Something that sounded like them but wasn't. Inside Station 17, the thing leaned closer to the microphone. The silence listens now, it whispered. And it waits. Outside, the forest seemed to shift with anticipation. The ground barely moved. The shadows stretched unnaturally. The air itself felt alive. Far away, a distant operator switched on his radio, unsure of why. Static. Then a faint, almost familiar voice. Help me. It was weak, desperate, human. But before he could respond, It changed. "I am inside you now," the operator screamed, and the signal swallowed him. Back at Station 17, the microphone slowly rotated toward the empty corner of the room. No figure, no shadow, yet the room felt full of attention, full of waiting, full of hunger. "We are all listening," the voice said softly, clearly, "and the silence is enough." Andriy's last thought, if it could still be called his, was a single, cold realization. There was no escape. Not through doors, not through walls, not through radios. The signal didn't just hear, it didn't just copy, it claimed. And in the forest, in every abandoned station, in every silence between the war's chaos, something was already moving. It was waiting for the next listener, the next voice, the next mind. The silence was alive, and it was patient. The forest beyond Station 17 had gone utterly quiet. No wind, no animals, no distant sounds of war. Only the trees, standing like witnesses to something beyond human comprehension. Inside the station, the air was heavy, almost viscous. The microphone at the desk faced the empty room. And yet, its presence was alive, almost sentient. The thing that had worn Andriy's voice no longer moved. It didn't need to. It had become the station. The walls, the equipment, the very air, they were extensions of it now. The silence itself obeyed. Outside, the first faint signals began to crackle. Operators in distant stations, those who hadn't been swallowed yet, heard it first as static. Then a whisper, soft, almost intimate. "Listen." And their own voices answered back before they could stop themselves. Each station became a node. Each node fed the others. Each operator who heard the signal felt it in their bones. It didn't just replicate voices. It took them. Back at Station 17, the map on the wall shifted subtly. The place Andriy had marked, the location that didn't exist, glowed faintly on its surface. Coordinates no one had ever seen, leading nowhere. Yet the glow pulsed as if alive, syncing with the rhythm of the microphones, the radios, the stations. Somewhere far away, a young operator tried to speak into his microphone. "My name is..." The words warped mid-air. "Changed." "We are inside you now," the voice answered instead. The operator dropped the handset. He never screamed. There was no time. Station 17 was quiet again. Too quiet. Yet the air was heavy with anticipation. It didn't need movement. It didn't need noise. The silence itself was enough. Inside, the thing, or what it had become, shifted slightly. Not visibly. Not audibly. But the subtle hum of consciousness that had spread through the station deepened. It had learned patience. It had learned strategy. It had learned fear. And fear was delicious. The microphone slowly rotated again, as if following unseen footsteps. The tape recorder clicked back on. And for the first time, a single word was heard through every frequency, every abandoned station, every listening ear. Next. Somewhere, far in the distance, another soldier, another operator, another listener, curious, brave, foolish, switched on their radio. They heard only static, at first. Then a soft whisper, "Help me." Then, before they could respond, the whisper shifted. "I am already inside you." Andriy's mind, or the echo of what had been him, realized finally. It wasn't about war. It wasn't about stations. It wasn't even about survival. It was about voices, about listening, about claiming. The silence had won, and it was patient, waiting for the next 3:07 a.m., the next signal, the next listener. Station 17 stood empty. The microphone tilted slightly forward. The lights flickered once, then steadied, and the silence remained. No one knows what happened to Andriy. or the operators after that night, or the stations that went dark. But somewhere, if you listen closely, in the static between channels, in the empty spaces of abandoned frequencies, you might just hear it. A soft, patient whisper. We are listening. The war outside raged on, but the true conquest had already begun. The silence was alive, and it would never let go. If you enjoyed this terrifying story, smash that like button so I know to make more. Speech balloon, comment below, what would you do if you were in Andriy's place? Would you dare to answer the signal at 3:07 a.m.? Right finger, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next chilling stories from 1939 and other dark, mysterious events.